thank you very much. Let me start with a quick note on the subject of export restrictions for fossils. When here in this building, when I entered this building this morning, you can see me here in this building, the fourth. Sorry. Okay, I was sorry. The fourth specimen of Archaeopteryx is housed, and of course, for those who think that the export of fossils is an immoral or an unethical thing, the specimen should be repatriated, I think. And I mean, of course, that's nonsense. But if you consider, if you look at Archaeopteryx, that's better. Okay. If you look at Archaeopteryx number 2, which was exported to London, that logically should also be repatriated, you know, from that point of view. And actually, if you look at Archaeopteryx, the second one, which is in Berlin, you may think that that one is, you know, in the country where it should be, but it was also illegally exported from the Bavarian kingdom to the state of Prussia. So what I want to say is the world is getting smaller, and we should really skip these old-fashioned ideas of nationalism and of old borders. And I think that's one that science really should serve, is, you know, to unite nations and to give up the old ideas of nationalism. Anyways, let me come to the key subject of this thing. How can as many fossils be protected and saved? And the question is, can legislation help to do so? I mean, I'm a commercial dealer, but I still can say the common goal for me is still finally to save as many fossils as possible from disappearance and from destruction, and make them, by the end of the day, accessible for science and for museums. And with this intent, we know many countries have issued laws forbidding private and commercial activities. And I think what is reasonable at first glance has become the major force for the destruction of fossils. So we have to ask, what are the real reasons for fossil destruction? Is it because of dealers like me, or collectors who sacrifice lots of money and invest their time in this? And I think that's a really crucial misconception. That's the true reason for fossil destruction. In this blast, you know, which we just saw, I was calculating a team of 15 professional diggers would have to dig for 5 years to track through the rock that was destroyed within part of a second. And that happens every day all around the planet. Same thing here with the excavator. You know, we have these road constructions, we heard it several times today. Another thing is erosion. No one, no scientist, not even the commercial community, can ever control what's being destroyed there day by day. And these are the forces that are really responsible for the irreversible destruction every single day of thousands of fossils, of more than the whole content of this museum, day by day. So whatever eventually happens to these fossils, I think each single specimen collected privately or commercially is much better off than being destroyed by dust, by blasting, by dredging, or eroded away to the ocean. So I think this whole discussion originates in the inability and unwillingness of some people to imagine and to acknowledge that these tens of thousands of fossil specimens are being destroyed day by day. Well, thank you. What the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't breathe over. I think that's the key misperception. And show me the specimen which had a collector or a private dealer not saved from such a destruction would have been excavated by a museum. And I think that's the point here. We are not in a situation of competition, but we should support each other to save as many fossils as possible from these forces of destruction. And I want to take a look at reality and give you 3 samples. This is the quarry of Pine, which Ollie also referred to. I'm running a field campaign there for about 15 years, investing quite a lot of my private money. And I'm asking, what would have happened, you know? Actually, sorry, you know what we found there? I mean, you just saw the photo of Scurominus. That's a turtle, which is probably very crucial for the evolution of turtles in the late Jurassic. Pterosaur are also a completely new taxon. I can continue this for an hour or so. And what would have happened to these actual specimens, to the Scurominus, to the turtle, to the pterosaur, had we not excavated them? They would all have been destroyed and ground down to plaster. And they would have been destroyed as all fossils have been destroyed in this quarry, under the eyes of our museums for the last 40 years. And I did a calculation, you know, out of 100% of the original fossiliferous layer there, about 98% have been blasted away and destroyed. And by the 2% we dug, you know, where we secured the fossil, I could calculate that in this quarry, in the last 40 years, about 50 of such dinosaurs, about 1,200 complete character specimens, about 1,800 turtles, like the ones we saw, about 18,000 important fish fossils. We're not talking about little Tarsus or something, not even about an Australorhynchus. Important fish specimens, about 600 sphenodons, and so on, have been destroyed forever. And nobody ever cared or complained about that. And now, if a legislation keeps me away from an unrestricted ownership, including the right to sell them to whomever and wherever I want, I will stop digging there. But then, the entity that issued a law against that, and everyone who helped to install such a law, has to either take over what we did, or is fully responsible for the mass destruction of the finds that will be lost then. And I really think that's the key point. When you think about legislation, that each of you must be fully aware, if I call for legislation, I'm responsible for the mass destruction of all these fossils that otherwise would be found by commercial operators like me. As I said, it's not a matter of competition. It's a matter of how can we save these things. I want to give you a second sample. That's later. That's not the photo with this. It's Holzmarken, and I have to disagree a little bit with Dino here. In Holzmarken, since 1972, a law restricts the collecting and possession of important finds from the Posidonia shales. And the first thing is, no institution is really digging there. Seiler did a small digging campaign like 30 years ago, that was all. The collectors are discouraged by this law and are not allowed to own the really important finds. So the question is, who cares for the fossils in the Holzmarken quarries by law? And it's all securing of fossils left to the uneducated and uninterested workers, simple workers who have no idea what they are doing there. And they usually have no love and no connection with our subject. These are the government's agents. And they are unable to recognize a thin bone of a pterosaur or like a soft part belemnite or the thin tissue of a shark. What they bring is another ichthyosaur, another crocodile where they can see the thick bones. But the special things that are really interesting for science and for me as a commercial dealer, sure, they will all be lost there. And the few collectors, and I'm thankful for your speech, the few collectors who break the law and don't care for the legislation, they have incredible specimens. That's true with their collections. But these specimens are all safe from destruction. Anyways, collecting activity is slow in Holzmarken due to the restriction, and almost all of the important specimens are dredged away. And I know several collectors, actually, who would be willing to donate or to sell such finds. But by this law, they are being criminalized, and that's the effect of the law. They hide their things because they are afraid of being prosecuted when they turn into the public. Anyways, that's a third sample from my experience. Here on the right side, you see public land, that's BLM land. To the left, it's Dana Quarry in Wyoming, where I've been digging for about 10 years for sauropods. At the right side there, it's all Morrison Formation, almost to the horizon. I know actually of at least one allosaur, probably one Taurosaur specimen, at least, and for sure several sauropods. And each year I go there, and they're weathering away. Each year a little bit more, a little bit more. And no one cares then. In front of the fence is private land, digging is permitted. That's where we were allowed to save, you know, some of the most complete sauropods from this project. That was exactly under the tar. You can see this diplodocid dinosaur is a juvenile specimen, like 95% complete, but it would have been eroded away within the next decades. It was really soft like coffee powder already. Most of the specimen, in any case, from this locality did end up in museums. So I think this is a good effect, but I have to tell you, a few of them I sold privately. And actually, one of them I sold to one of the most commercial places on the planet, to Dubai Mall. It's standing in the middle of Dubai Mall, a very unethical thing. But I mean, there are 10,000s of people walking by every day, admiring the thing. There are photos, I don't know how many thousands of photos, from people who would never enter a museum. So that specimen is exposed to a public that does not know anything about dinosaurs, but from their 3D movies and their iPhones or whatever. So I think it's a good thing to bring these things in the public, especially when the alternative is that the whole thing would be destroyed. So to me, it's crystal clear. Protection, any form of protection, by the end of the day, is destruction. And if you look at reality, of course there are black sheeps amongst collectors who really want to have everything for themselves, but there are black sheeps amongst scientists too. When I started 3 years ago in Freiburg, the Bavarian state, the Badische state collection was thrown away by the geologists because they needed the space for the students, and there were holotypes. There were ammunites, there were holotypes thrown away. So there is no 100% solution for anything. So anyways, there are black sheeps, of course, but the vast majority of collectors has a deep love for fossils and for science, and otherwise they would not sacrifice countless hours and much money into this hobby. And I think if we treat them fairly, or if they are treated fairly and with respect, they will be happy to see their major discoveries eventually finding a way into public collections and being worked on by scientists. And if you look at the stores of your museums, most specimens in most museums were not found by the museums themselves, but by private collectors. Yeah. So I think we have to face the real problem of fossil destruction and not fight ideological wars against those who sacrifice their time and energy to achieve what no public entity can ever deliver. And I think let everybody collect and own and save from destruction fossils as much as possible. Don't stop them by any laws, but let's try to motivate them as good as possible by offering them respect and a good cooperation. And that will help to get the best results. Thank you very much.